If you take G3 AMath, this is the most common question type that everyone gets wrong in exam situations. So let's save you that 3 marks. This is a very classic question from chapter 1, which is your quadratic equations, inequalities, and your graphing techniques, right? And this question always asks students to prove why a quadratic equation is always positive. And based off my experience of tutoring for the past 3 years, right, every single AMath student always get this question half correct only, because they always miss out the most critical part, which is the second portion that 99% of students always omit. But before that, let's first build some intuition. What is this question actually asking us to prove? This question is actually asking us to prove that this quadratic curve is always above the x-axis. So imagine this is the x-axis over here. The quadratic curve is always above, right? And we can see that for a quadratic curve to be always positive, the first condition is actually here, right? The first condition is that it cannot touch the x-axis, right? Because if it were to touch the x-axis, let's just assume that I'm just going to draw another graph over here, and let's say it touches the x-axis. This is not always positive already, because in this case, right, the y value can be 0, right? And when the y value is 0, we wouldn't consider this always positive, right? So therefore, the graph must be completely above the x-axis so that every corresponding y value, so you see the dots that I'm drawing over here, every single y value all corresponds to a positive value. So for the first condition, how do we actually prove that it cannot touch the x-axis? It goes back to the idea of your discriminant. So your discriminant must be lesser than 0 because there cannot be any intersection with the x-axis. So the first thing that we need to show is that the discriminant is negative. So I'm just going to write number 1 over here. I'm just going to write discriminant. And we know that discriminant over here is b squared minus 4ac. So my a is 1, my b is 1, and then my c is 3, right? So c is 3 over here. So I'm just going to plug all of that inside the equation over here. So therefore, I'll write it as b squared minus 4ac, which gives me 1 minus 12, which is negative 11, and therefore it's lesser than 0. And over here, we just need to write a simple explanation and say that since discriminant is lesser than 0, right, the x squared plus x plus 3 does not cut the x-axis, right? There is no x-intercept. But students always forget the second portion, which is this one over here, right? In order for a graph to be always positive, it has to be pointing upwards. Okay, always has to be pointing upwards. This is the part that everyone forgets. If the graph is pointing downwards, let's say it's pointing downwards, eventually it will go downwards over here, right? So the graph has to always be pointing upwards. Therefore, in your second portion of your answer, you have to state that the coefficient of x squared, in this case, is 1, which is positive. So therefore, the graph is upwards sloping, right? It's a happy face. And when you combine 1 and 2 over here, that is how you prove that x squared plus x plus 3 is always positive. So to all G3 AMath students, you need to always have these two answers inside the whole entire answer to get the full credit. And this chapter is one of those big chapters where there's a lot of different question types, and this is just one specific question type that could come out. So if you want to get access to all the different question types that I've consolidated over the past many years as a student, as a tutor myself, I've also recorded video answers to all of them and uploaded them into the library of A1 Math Academy, which is my 24/7 learning portal where I teach you every single AMath chapter completely from scratch. And if you want to know how it works, just WhatsApp this number over here. I'll send you an info kit as well as a demo link to show you how it actually works and how it actually complements your learning together with our 24/7 premium marking service. And with that said, WhatsApp this number and I'll send everything to you.